Well, welcome in, hockey fans in the desert Southwest. It's fun to see the Arizona Coyotes finally get another win at home. I shouldn't really say that because they've been pretty good at home, right, Seth Askelson?
Yeah, they have. Nets and now an 8-game point streak at home, 5-0-3, and you almost feel like it should be 6-0-2, especially with that Kings game last week, last
Right.
Thursday. So a team that through all the kind of the sideways play, kind of the games that were hard to watch, right? That made the eyes burn a little bit. A team that has all of a sudden turned an arena that was once known as a home away from home for a lot of different teams, all of a sudden become a very difficult place to play for those not from the Valley.
Well, we talked about the Arizona Coyotes road record to start the season, right? They were one of the best teams on the road, and they struggled a little bit at home. But now they're back at home, and they're playing well at home, and they're using that home ice advantage. They still don't have their quote-unquote number one goaltender back in Darcy Kemper, but Antti Ranta has played pretty solid, huh?
Yes, he has, and again, he's made 72 out of 72 saves of the last 74 shots faced, a 30-save shutout tonight. He's back, right? This is what you traded him for him, right? And
Yep.
a lot of people, even after the Kemper extension, trade him, right? Oh, you got your number one goaltender. This is why you don't trade away two number one goaltenders. And it's almost you're almost giving a cautionary tale to different teams. Say a Washington Capitals team who Braden Holt be struggling just a little bit, but and with Samsonov being so good. Talks about are they going to let him go at the end of the offseason, maybe give it to Samsonov. Maybe you don't want to do that. Same thing in New York, right? I mean, Lundqvist maybe hasn't been himself the last couple of years, but you have Georgiev and they have the guy down in the Shesterkin in the AHL. You wonder if Shesterkin and Georgiev are going to be the next Kemper Ranta. But again, it's almost showing teams around the league, hey, it almost used to be you don't need two number one goaltenders. See if you can get some more value for your team. It's a little word to the wise right now. Hey, having two number one goaltenders can really help you push on in a season.
It all starts in goal, and as you can see tonight with the Edmonton Oilers and their firepower, right? They, you mentioned it to me as we were watching the start of it. They came on, and McDavid had a few chances early, and then all of a sudden it looked like the Coyotes shifted gears and said, whoa, we need to shut this down right now, right here.
Yeah, the first two shifts, you're like, oh, this is going to be a long night. McDavid, not a full breakaway, but right, he gets the corner, and anytime McDavid gets the corner, it's almost over for anybody else. Ronta makes a good save, and I think after the first couple shifts, they kind of woke up a little bit, got into the game, and then all of a sudden, they turned it around on the Oilers. They were the ones bringing the pressure, bringing the speed through neutral ice. The last time the Oilers were here, I think we saw a lot of Stepan and Richardson and Fisher and Krause, kind of those physical guys to shut down that McDavid line. I think it was a little bit different because, again, last time they were here, Draisaitl and McDavid on the same line. Tonight it was Draisaitl and Nugent Hopkins, so they wanted to use a little more of those physical guys, I think, on that line since it was spread out a little bit more.
Right.
But you saw against McDavid, sometimes it was the Richardson line. Sometimes it was Richardson Soderberg. Sometimes it was Stepan Krause, and sometimes it was even Schmaltz Keller. It just kind of depended. Again, Tuckett wasn't leaning on one line because I think what you saw the last time the Oilers were here, he leaned on one line, and they got tired at the end. And he, when you double shift McDavid and Draisaitl, as great of athletes as Stepan and Krause and Soderberg and Richardson are, they don't have the same stamina as a McDavid, right? I mean, those guys are almost 10 years older than McDavid. It's crazy to think that, right? Like, it feels like McDavid's been in the league for 100 years. He's not even 25 yet. But that's the thing is they did a lot better kind of mixing the lines, matching up well. And again, at the end of the night, they put Draisaitl and McDavid back together.
Yeah.
And the Coyotes did an effective job. It just shows Nick Jarmelson didn't play in that last game against the Oilers. It shows how much he means to this team. He, again, was fantastic. Jordan Osterley looked good.
Right.
Capobianco struggled, got sent back down. Jarmelson saved Capobianco a few times on Saturday. So, again, the Coyotes did a great job shutting down the Oilers and not letting McDavid run wild.
Okay, and Dave Tippett knows how to maneuver his lineups. I mean, he made some changes in hopes that he could find that magic key to make a third the period push, and it just didn't happen tonight, right? Because Auntie Ronto was steady, and like I said, when the Coyotes got the puck in the third, they took possession of it, they controlled it, they got an empty netter to make it 3-0, which was the final. The empty netter, of course, in the third gets tacos for everybody, so everybody's happy about that. But Phoenix Rising night tonight, I want your comments on what you heard from Section 206.
Yeah, I had a buddy who was here, and he actually ended up jumping into our pregame video a little bit, kind of stuck his head in, who was up there. And you heard Auntie Ronta say, he loves soccer. He recognized it. And that's one of those things where, sure, you think as a hockey fan, oh, that's a little weird. Why wouldn't you bring them back for the playoffs? Right. They are making noise, right? Like, they are up there, they're chanting, they're making noise, And as funny as you say, oh, well, it's two different sports, it's two different. Is it really?
Yeah.
Is it really, right? Like, I mean, sometimes in this arena, it's nothing against the fans per se, but sometimes it's a little quiet in here. And they were the ones that got the chants going. In that first period, a little quiet.
Right.
Then they got those chants going, and all of a sudden, I think you could feel that the Coyotes were getting into it a little bit, kind of as they were finding their feet. The crowd was finding their noise a little bit, and I think that's great. I think the Coyotes need to promote more of that style, right? Again, it's chanted. I think you watch a game in Europe. I've had a chance to see a couple Swedish leagues games on TV, a German league game on TV, and those guys have really done a great job. They chant just like it is in European soccer games. So I think it's a great atmosphere, and I'd definitely be encouraging if they brought them back again.
Okay, so it's a 3-0 win for the Arizona Coyotes over the Edmonton Oilers. You and I spoke about it. If you haven't looked at the schedule, this was the last time the Arizona Coyotes will play anybody in the Western Conference until March. So you got the month of February. You brought something up to me that I thought was interesting. Last time the Coyotes were in the playoffs, tell us what they did in the month of February.
An 11-0-1 run. They got points in all 12 February games. And that really pushed them to that division lead.
Right.
Again, in March, they kind of fell off the table a little bit and then came back and went on a 5-game win streak to end the season to pick up the division win. It's one of those things where I wrote about it in the Seth Says that was posted on Ice Time Hockey Southwest, the new website, great design, by the way. And it's one of those things where once a year, there's maybe one or two teams that run away, right? Like, okay, this is the President's Trophy winner. Like, you don't have to worry about them. Tampa Bay last year, looking like Washington again this year. Right. But every other team who gets in the playoffs, they go through ups and downs. I mean, look at Boston, right? Everyone thought Boston was going to run away, and all of a sudden they've gotten dragged back in by Tampa and dragged back in by Florida and into having to battle for their playoff spots. And when you're going to have those ebbs and flows, those ups and downs, you want to make sure those down periods come when it doesn't matter that much, right? Again, you'll ask a coach or a player, they'll give you the same athlete answer, right? Oh, every game matters. And yes, it does, right? You don't want to lose a game.
All right.
But you want to make sure if you're going to have to eat a bundle of losses, it doesn't come in February, in March, in April. And the Coyotes, they ate a bundle of losses at the end of the season last year, right? I mean, you think about it. They went on that East Coast road trip and lost 4 in a row and struggled. And, and
a lot of people say that's what kept them out last year.
Oh, it 1,000% did. And Keller hits a post in overtime in New Jersey, and it just all those things, right? So you want to get those frustrating things out of the way. You're going to have 1-2 bad games a year. Yeah, it sucked that they got kind of beat up in Edmonton right before the All-Star break, but that is the perfect time to have that. You get to reflect a little bit, and obviously they didn't learn a ton as they went into Anaheim and lost.
Right.
But I think after that, they lost to Anaheim, lost the game to LA, did get a point, and they had that team meeting the day after on Friday, and
then got the block.
And then got the black, and you could tell it was a different effort on Saturday. It was a different effort. And I think that team meeting, whatever was said by whoever, I don't know, maybe it was the hand of God that came down, but it's turned this team around. They look like they're firing on all cylinders again. And they're missing 2 of their top defensemen again. They're missing 2 of their top defensemen.
And still missing
Darcy Kemper. And Michael Grabner hasn't, gotten himself back into form. I think he's still, obviously there hasn't been a lot of talk, but I think part of his struggles is I think he's still injured from earlier this year when he had to sit out a little bit. With that the lower body injury where he missed a few games, so I think he's still nursing that a little bit. Barrett Hayton getting sent down to Tucson for
That
conditioning.
was gonna be my next point.
Like all of a sudden, again, I know we talked about this in December, but man, you just think, okay, 2 weeks, is this team at full strength?
Right.
And you get a full strength Barrett Hayton back into the rotation. I'm sure you'll get him a few games. I mean, again, I know the Coyotes have been a little inconsistent, but you just got to hold your breath and say, okay, once they're fully healthy, this is a team that almost can't be beat.
Okay, so when I look at it, and I was talking to somebody the other day about this, is like, as soon as you lose a few games and you're an Arizona Coyotes fan, that the switch flips, right? It's like, okay, well, now we have to start trading guys. We need to start dumping guys. John Chaika didn't build this roster to trade them. He didn't build this roster to win this year. He built this roster to win this year, next year, the year after, and so on. He wants to build a winning tradition. You don't do that by trading for a guy like Taylor Hall and then dumping him at the trade deadline. So yeah, I think we can put all those things aside. Taylor Hall is going to be here to stay for the year, and they're going to push forward. I did want to mention about Barrett Hayton because we saw Barrett a little bit early in the year. He obviously made the roster and didn't go back to juniors. Celebrated win at the World Juniors, and he was hurt. And he comes back and he still hurts, where he's getting rehab. Now he's off in Tucson. What are your thoughts when Barrett Hayton comes back? Does he earn a spot? Some more playing time?
He's going to have to earn it, right? I mean, that's a key word. I think they'll want to get him in the rotation, right? They'll want to see, hey, where can he fit? But who gets pulled out of the lineup?
I don't know.
Right? Like I think at first glance you say, oh, it's Christian Fischer, right? Maybe Christian Fischer has been really good the last 2 weeks. I mean, he's struggled heavily at times this year. He's looked fantastic the last couple of weeks. So who do you pull? Lawson Krause? No. Stepan? No. Center, right? You don't want to pull your big centers out. Again, you're almost at a point where you're at gridlock, and you say, well, why not send him back to juniors? A, you've already used a year of his contract.
Yeah.
And B, what else is he going to learn, right? Like, even if he doesn't play, being in an NHL practice, competing against NHL-level players in practice is going to make him better. He still sits in the film rooms. Right. He still gets the same feedback. He still gets the same lessons when he watches the films and the breakdowns. So for Hayton, this is almost a learning year. You think about it, right? Richardson done at the end of this year. Soderberg, his contract's up. That, depending on the cap, that probably won't be a reality for him to come back, especially if they want to re-sign Taylor Hall.
Right.
So next year, some spots are going to open up just because of the cap situation, who is and who isn't coming back. So this is a year, soak it all in, play a few games. Don't worry about whether you're getting in or not. Just play a few games. And who knows? Again, the injuries, the coaching staff obviously, right, the coaching staff hasn't been too impressed with Michael Grabner this year. Again, I think part of that still nursing that injury, the lingering injury a little bit. But Coyotes forwards seem to drop like flies. So, again, you never know when he's going to have to get pressed in. But this year for him, it's a learning year. You get the confidence from the World Juniors. I wouldn't be surprised if he puts up 3 points a game in Tucson. I mean, you saw how he was flying around out here. If you're almost disappointed if he doesn't put up 3 points a game in Tucson. So you gain the confidence from the World Juniors. You gain the confidence from the conditioning stint. He comes back up. He's hungrier than ever, learning a lot more, ready to take that next step in the next year. You got to think he's playing down the middle. With all the changes, if they want to re-sign Taylor Hall, it's definitely going to be hard to keep a guy like Richardson and Soderberg. Yeah. So you got to think next year he's going to be down the middle, top three lines for the Coyotes. So this year, a learning year, maybe a little frustrating that he's not playing as much, but next year is going to be the year for him to take that huge step.
Well, I'm going to tell you, the hockey fan in me would just love to see him paired with Connor Garland and Taylor Hall and have Hayton down the middle, just to see what that skill level, because they all have the skill level, they all have the speed. I'd also like to see those guys play a little 3-on-3 in the overtime one time, just to see how that would go, because I think that'd be a lot of fun. In overtime, yeah, I know you want a defenseman out there, right? But if you control the puck, nobody's going to get it from you. And if you've got speed, you're going to end it 9 times out of 10 faster than you have to continue to worry about playing defense.
Yeah, and Connor Garland and Taylor Hall are very responsible defensively. Hall, I know a lot of the times it's at the end of the penalty kill. They'll send him out there because they want him, they want to throw that first line out there the second they're done with the kill. But, I mean, he still goes out there. It's not like he gets out there with 5 seconds left and the puck's in the corner. There's still 35, 40 seconds left. He's got a forecheck. He'll block shots for you. Same thing with Garland, very responsible defensively. So I don't think you have to worry. You put those 3 forwards out there, I think you're still going to get some sort of defensive responsibility. And it's like you said, I mean, yeah, the Oilers have McDavid and Draisaitl, but defensively they don't have the fastest guys in the world, right? Who's your fastest guy back there? Darnell Nurse, and he's not necessarily the guy that's going to set the wing on fire. Right. So that's the thing is you have guys out there that can catch some of those skilled guys. Would be interesting to see. But, hey, for Hayton right now, if he's able to gain that skill set that Christian Dvorak has, he's right. Faster than Christian Dvorak. But what Dvorak has, smart guy defensively, great at faceoffs, sees the ice extremely well. Hayton develops those talents the same as Dvorak, and he has that speed with him. Are we talking about a Hall and Hayton and Garland top line opening night next year? That might be unstoppable in itself.
Well, I think we've said everything we can say from Gila River Arena tonight. It's a 3-0 win. It's a good, impressive win. I think you called – what did you call it? You gave me a line of what you called this win. A
business-like win. I mean, you always talk about it, right? When teams go on the road, you want to be business-like. That was a show up, score 2 goals, lock it down, score the – I mean, if you asked a coach, hey, how do you want to win a game? They'd tell you, yep, you score 2 goals, you lock it down defensively, you ice it with an empty net, and you go home. So, and real quick note here from the Howler. Great job by the Coyotes PR staff. 32-8-8 in the last 48 games against the Oilers for the Coyotes. Ooh. I mean, that's pretty much this entire, decade.
Boy, and you just led me into something right there, because when I walked in here today, I said, where did I arrive at? I saw the orange jerseys. I thought I was at Edmonton East, right? As we leave here today, we can safely call this Gila River Arena, Glendale, Arizona, the home of the Arizona Coyotes.
Yeah, again, all of a sudden turned this from a home away from home to a house of horrors. Yeah. So the Coyotes got to continue, but you got to take that play on the road, right? And yes. They'll get that chance. Go on the road into the East, right? And you're playing some interesting teams. Toronto scuffling right now. I know Toronto won here last time, but that was special circumstances, brand new head coach. I mean, that was a team that was unbelievably energized. Right. So you're playing a Toronto team that's scuffling, might be without their starting goaltender for a little bit. Frederik Andersen got hurt last night against Florida. Michael Hutchinson did not play well in that third period, and they ended up losing that game 5-3. You get Ottawa, who's having, they're a tough, scrappy team, but again, they're like what the Coyotes were 3 years ago. Like, you're just like, they're fighting, they're going to be there, they're just not there yet. You get Montreal, who's trying, throwing salt over their shoulder to try and get the tide turned from them. Just whatever they're doing just isn't working for them. Boston has been kind of up and down since the turn of the calendar year. So you get on the road and teams that are very uncertain about themselves, a lot of teams that are very uncertain about themselves, and the Coyotes pick up a win on Thursday and just gain that confidence, gain that momentum, and just take it right to the East Coast.
All right, that's it from Gila River Arena. I'm going to throw out a couple of housekeeping notes. Number one is we're going to say that this was Phoenix Rising night, so is this, pardon the pun, but the rising Arizona Coyotes we saw? And secondly is join Seth and myself for our new podcast starting next week, the Pro Hockey SW Weekly. We'll be bringing it to you every Monday night, 7:30. You can tune in live or just listen to it on the podcast at Podbean or wherever you get your podcasts. Tune in, listen to it. We're going to bring in some great guests throughout the year and really enjoy talking hockey with you for the rest of the season.
Yes, thanks, Scott. Well, looking forward to it, and hopefully when we come back, we can talk about the Coyotes pretty much entrenching themselves in a playoff spot.
Absolutely. That's it from Gila River Arena tonight, where it's hockey weather. It's in the mid-30s again tonight, Seth. So the big jacket's out. We're buttoning up. It's hockey season in the desert.